We're going to look at some of the other parameters of nitrogen. One of the things that we always talk about is method of uptake. How is the material absorbed into the plant through the root or other part of the plant, in what form? In nitrogen, we've been talking about ammonia type nitrogen and we've been talking about nitrate type nitrogen. When applied to the plant, we have to be able to figure out how this stuff gets in. In aerobic soils, you get a lot of nitrate being picked up because nitrate is one of the common things that's in the soil. Nitrate itself is not very toxic. You have uptake in aerobic soils. It can be absorbed by the root. It can be absorbed by the shoot. In plants, they often look at transport within the plant. Nitrate is one of the ways that you get transport within the plant as well. If you have anaerobic soils and in grasslands, ammonia is going to be the primary manner of uptake. If you're looking something like a grass tends to like ammonia a little bit better than it would like nitrate. If you're looking at anaerobic soils, you have the breakdown of proteins, and that's going to release the ammonia that would then be brought up by the plant and used from there. When you have this, ammonia is the only form that plants use. You have to have a modification of nitrate to ammonia. This occurs within the leaves of the plant. You absorb nitrate out of the soil, you move it up and around in the nitrate form. When it reaches the leaves, you'll get conversion of the nitrate to the ammonia, and you can use that particular material from then on. When we talk about sufficiency means that you've got enough. Nitrogen needs to be controlled, which means you have to reach a sufficient amount of it. You shouldn't go much over it because nitrogen stimulates growth. Anytime you have stimulated growth, you want to make sure that you don't have too much growth. Too much growth is not good. In this case, if you've got too much growth, it puts stress on the rest of the plant because it's got to absorb everything else as well. You want to have a sufficient amount of nitrogen to not stimulate shoot growth to the point where the root growth is impaired. There's a direct functioning between shoot and root growth. If the shoots are demanding all of the nutrients, then you're not getting proper root growth as well. You have to be careful about nitrogen, as nitrogen varies with environmental and cultural conditions. Sometimes plants get stressed because you've got too much growth in them. Sometimes they're stressed because you don't have enough growth in them. You need to look at how do we put in the proper amount. If we're looking at turfgrass, depending on the species of turfgrass, you could use between 1/10 and 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per month of the growing season. That's 4.3 to 43 pounds per acre per month of the growing season. If you have a growing season that's 10 months long, you're going to need 430 pounds of nitrogen. If you have a growing season that's 2 months long, you need 86 pounds of nitrogen. This is going to vary depending on the parameter of how long is your growing season and what is the turfgrass that you're dealing with. If you've got a pasture, you put down about 40 pounds of nitrogen per ton of pasture material. Average pasture will produce somewhere to 4 to 5 tons per acre, which means you're putting down somewhere between 160 and 200 pounds of nitrogen over the span of the growing season. This isn't all put down in the beginning, but many times it's spread out over the span of the growing season. If you've got corn, you look at about 1 pound of nitrogen per bushel of corn. If you've got a really good corn crop, you're looking at 175, 200 bushels. Mediocre corn crop, you may only be looking at 125 bushels. You would have to budget your nitrogen in here to be able to get the proper amounts. Wheat, 2 pounds per bushel, you're looking at a 60 bushel per acre. So that's about 120 pounds per acre. If we look at sorghum, we're looking at 1 pound per bushel. We're looking at about 90 bushels per acre, which means you're using about 90 pounds. You can see that even among these crop plants, you have got different amounts of nitrogen that can be used in order to be able to have a sufficient amount to have maximum growth. If we look at deficiency, nitrogen deficiency looks a lot like deficiencies in a lot of other chemicals. Deficiency is stunted growth and a pale color. That doesn't tell you a whole lot. If we look at this planting here, you've got dark green in the background, you've got light green in the foreground. The foreground's deficient in nitrogen. It could also be deficient in iron. It could be deficient in several other things that might give you similar type characteristics. You have to be careful. You have to go out and do your soil test beforehand to make sure that you've got the proper amount of nitrogen in the soil. If you look down a row in here, you can see it's nice and green up on the top, but down on the bottom, it's kind of yellowish. On some of the older leaves, you're starting to get the yellowish storage part, which means you're not getting enough nitrogen up in this particular scenario. This is another area where you look at nitrogen deficiency. You've got darker green crops, you've got light yellow crops. A light yellow crop looks like the spreader or whatever it was that put the nitrogen down missed that particular spot, and that gave you the symptom that you have here. Luxury consumption. We always worry about luxury consumption. Nitrogen can be stored to excess because nitrogen is a very important thing when you do have storage. Excess nitrogen is stored in the tissues at nitrate because the ammonium is toxic. You get too much of the NH4 and it's going to be toxic and it's going to cause things to die. But if you get nitrate, well, nitrate can be stored. It can be stored to a fair amount. We said in the beginning that nitrogen was somewhere around 3 to 5%. Excess luxury consumption, you could actually find 7 to 10% of the tissue being nitrogen. Toxicity. Nitrogen itself is non-toxic. Ammonium? That's a different story. If you have too much of it, the effects of high concentration include increased succulence, which causes plant to grow too much. That in itself could be problematic for the plant. The increase of succulence can be fatal, so therefore you have to watch out for too much nitrogen in the plant. Too much growth is not good. It's going to produce succulent tissues, and the succulent tissues can be easily damaged. Excess nitrogen in the soil can be toxic as it increases the soluble salt. Too much soluble salt can be toxic to the plant. Therefore, if you have excess nitrogen in the soil, that can be toxic because you've got a soluble salt problem, not so much just a nitrogen problem.